Sabah everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to recap for you guys my last 72 hours of using the brand new Pixel 4 XL as my daily driver. Now last week on Thursday we did the unboxing and we did the general overview of the device. Today we're going to talk about basically how functional they are, how good they are they worth it, but this is by no means a full review. Again, this is just a 72 hours with a brand new device and I just want to share with you guys my experience. This is TK, let's check it out. Like and subscribe and hit that bell icon so that you're always notified whenever we have new videos on the channel. After 3 days, motion sense kind of grew on me and it became kind of a functional thing. So essentially as I'm picking up my device, you'll notice right there the display lights up ever so slightly, and as soon as I bring it up, it looks at my face and it unlocks. Now I do have the Pokemon, the wallpaper, the live wallpaper that they showed us. You're able to basically interact with the actual Pokemon by just waving at them. And then hopefully you can actually also change them. They're supposed to basically respond to you whenever you do the wave for them, and then they wave back, kind of like the little one. I'm not sure which one that is. I'm pretty much only aware of two of these guys, and that's basically Pikachu and Eevee. But the short answer is that we have a very nice display. We have a very nice set of array of basically sensors at the top. The earpiece at the top has been changed. We no longer have the front-facing speakers, but it actually does sound pretty decent. It gives us the mids and highs on the top, and of course the lows on the bottom. And the speaker is actually the bottom right grill, not the bottom left. The bottom left is the additional microphone. And of course, we have the USB-C for data charge as well as audio. We have wireless charging, the fast 10-watt wireless charging here, supported by the same charger from the Pixel 3 XL. The dual sensors in the back, 12 and the 16, with the telephoto up to 2 opticals. And then basically, we get the secondary sensor. That's the benefit here. So essentially, when we go into the camera, we're able to basically use up to 2 times, and that basically jumps into 2 times optical zoom. So that's actual optical zoom, and anything beyond that is just digital. Even when we are talking about digital zoom, this was actually a flight that I had to take last weekend. Although the zoom photography on this, even though it only goes up to 8 times, so this was a picture I took from a flight over the weekend. You can see basically there's a building right there in the center of this picture. But if we switch over to the actual zoomed image, this is 8 times zoom. You can actually see some pretty good details, and even actually see the name that it is: Comcast NBC Universal. This is right next to Universal Studios here in Los Angeles, and it was actually just very, very nice to be able to actually see this much detail. Same thing with this building at the tower. You can see basically the word BUR for Burbank, that's the airport. And of course, as I zoom in there, the detail is preserved quite well. So zooming with this, even though it's only 2 times optical, it does actually a really good job of providing us a lot of great detail when you're zooming in. While we're talking about pictures, let's go ahead and talk about the camera application. We have an improved night sight mode that's basically just going to be the best option that you can have. And I'll show you guys this quick picture that I was taking of my front yard. This is a picture, it's just standard HDR, no night sight. And if I switch over to night sight, you could actually pretty much see the actual grass and everything. You can see even leaves on there. It's literally almost like this picture was taken during the day and this picture was taken at night, and they were taken literally seconds apart. Now, as far as portrait mode, it's still very nice. It's very capable, as much as we had it last year with the Pixel 3 XL. It does a pretty decent job about subject isolation, as long as there's enough basically contrast between the foreground and the background. Now, as far as camera, we have a couple of new options, one of which obviously is the ability of using the Google Lens that's built in. You'll notice right there, it's looking for different things in the background. If I tap it once, I'm able to control both the brightness and the contrast manually, as well as the zoom level up to 8 times, while we're still preserving a lot of that detail. And that's really some of the main benefit. As I showed you guys there, we're able to zoom in and still retain really good images. Now, video, it's slightly a different situation here. Now, out of the box, we don't have a way of basically controlling any other frame rate in the 4K mode. So if I go into the settings tab, there's basically a button option that just tells me I'm recording in 4K. If I turn off the 4K option and I go back in here, I have the ability of changing the speed, or basically the frame rate, and basically between 30 and 60 or automatic. But again, most of the benefit here is if you do go up to 4K, you're stuck to 4K at 30 frames per second. Just keep that in mind. And right now it's pretty much just a toggle, although at first, when we first unboxed the phone, we had it actually as a different setting. We were able to select the option here. I just turned on 4K and it says basically uses more storage, and it doesn't mention that it's 30 frames per second, but then when you go back out, you don't have a way of changing the frame rate. The front-facing camera is pretty much stuck to 1080p, so I'll go ahead into the switch, and it's pretty much the same thing. Even though this still says 4K, it's pretty much just set to the back, not to the front. Now, of course, we have time-lapse, we have slow motion, and I think time-lapse or one of the two, time-lapse or slow motion, was added. Of course, we have playground, photosphere, and panorama and lens. And I just want to show you real quick a time-lapse that I just ran as the flight was basically just taking off right there. Right before I took that picture of the Universal Studios building, you can see right there, and it just looks just the resolution and the images look really, really nice. So I've been using this on AT&T in the Los Angeles area, and as you notice, I have that whole 5GE logo at the top right, which kind of bugged me at the beginning, but I guess that's how AT&T operates. So whenever you put any SIM card into this phone, be it an AT&T or a T-Mobile, the phone will operate as if it's a phone that was sold by them. And what I mean by that is it displays their signals. It also try to install the AT&T applications. And I've seen some other users that were using it on T-Mobile where it started to download the T-Mobile apps. So just be aware there are additional apps that will download depending on the carrier that you're using, and it will actually pre-program itself once the SIM card is inserted. It is a single SIM, so just keep that in mind, as well as we don't have expandable storage. So the model that I have has 128 gigs of internal storage, and I have to say overall in about the 3 days or so that I've been using it, and I did not transfer data from another device, I'm up to about almost 20% usage of that 128. So keep in mind, 64 is a good starting point. I'm not saying it's enough. I think it's a good starting point. But if you have the option to spend a little bit more and if you're getting a Pixel 4 or a Pixel 4 XL, opt for the 128. You don't have a way of expanding it. And even if you're using online services to offset it, I think it's still a good option to go with. The display is absolutely fantastic. Dark mode on this thing is just super, super nice. It saves us battery, but it also looks really, really good. And what I'm loving about it is that we're starting to see dark mode permeate through some of the other Google applications. Not all of them, but some of them. So let's say I go into the Google search application. You notice the search option is actually now running on it. So you can just scroll through, and of course you can turn it off. You can go into the theme application or the theme option within the application and do that. Gmail still hasn't picked it up here, although I've seen it that it's started to roll. And as far as Chrome, you do have the way of using it. As far as gaming and applications and daily use, I've installed my normal suite of applications. So I have Twitter, Instagram, Discord. I also have TikTok for enjoyment. As you know, I started posting videos there. And of course, I have Play Music, I have Monument Valley Project. I did install PUBG, and I've won my first match last night on this. Definitely really nice to play with this. The speakers are very good. The spatial differentiation, basically where you're getting shot or where the firing is happening, is very, very nice. And it did not overheat. Now, we are running the Snapdragon 855, not the 855 Plus. And in my mind, in 2019, the difference between the two is not enough to qualify a plus or a win for me in between two different phones. The 855 is a very capable processor, so I don't have a problem with it. We have 6 gigs of RAM supporting it, and this device, as you can imagine, with the display, QHD, 90 Hertz, everything, it just honestly outperforms anything that you can imagine. And it has no problem handling playing games in any shape, way, or form. And of course, I did win my last match yesterday. Overall, the UI is super smooth, 90 Hertz all the time. I did not force it to go 90 Hertz. I decided to just keep it at the automatic mode. You do have a way of turning on 90 Hertz all the time, but that will impact the battery. The Pixel 4 XL, we have the larger of the two batteries. We have a 3700 milliamp battery, and realistically, charging on this is pretty fast. Wireless charging is also pretty fast if you use the Pixel charger that they sold last year, and that's a 10-watt charger. But for me, within the last 3 days or so, and basically what I do is I undock or I take the phone off the charge at about 5:50 in the morning, and I try to put it back on the charger by around 9 to 10 p.m. at the end of the day. And every single day this device has carried me, and it actually carried me through a flight. Like I said, I had to travel over the weekend to San Jose, and I had actually no problem at all traveling, going in there, playing on the plane, playing videos, music, everything plays really nice. And I've consistently been able to basically keep around about 20% left. Screen on time is not the highest. That would be something that I would I barely crossed 5 hours. I think it was on Saturday, and that was because I was traveling and I basically was on the phone a lot more. But overall, the experience for me, I'm not going to say that this is going to shatter any kind of experience as far as, screen on time. As long as your signal is strong and obviously you keep the brightness level set to the right level that you're in, you should be actually able to get pretty good screen on time. The radar technology that we have here with the gestures has basically been fantastic. Using gestures with the device has actually been pretty nice. Although a little bit of a gimmick, it still actually works pretty nice. And what I mean by this essentially is we'll start a song, I'll give it a second. You'll notice there's a little bit of a light up. It sees my finger, and I can go ahead and swipe. The only thing that kind of got me is I wish that swiping next would be going this way, and in reality, it's swiping back. So the gestures are a little bit backwards. If you guys can let me know somewhere if there's a setting that I maybe forgot to turn on. But for me, to basically to go forward, as you see, to go back, you have to swipe to the right, and to go forward, you have to swipe to the left. To me, it would have made more sense the other way, but hopefully we'll see more options come in. And again, it works really nice. It works really good, especially if the device is sitting on the table. As I get closer to pick up my device, it lights up a little bit. I look at it, and all of this happens automatically, instantaneously. And I do want to mention that the face unlock does actually work in all positions. So I can actually go ahead and lock the device. Let's go ahead and unlock it. It unlocks this way. And let's go ahead and do it upside down. It also works upside down. So that actually does work actually in 360. So even if your phone is sitting sideways, and let's say you pick it up this way, it actually will go ahead and unlock. So you'll notice right there, it unlocked the device and I'm able to use it. So not having a fingerprint sensor does take a few days to get used to, but once you're used to it, it's definitely very, very nice. Now, astrophotography is one of the options that they talked about, and it was something that I wanted to try, and I had to wait for a couple of days for the sky to actually clear up for us here. We've been having a lot of wind and a lot of clouds. So for me, this morning was actually one of the best opportunities. I decided to go out, and of course, I started to do some of those astral shots, and you could see it has a very good way of pulling in a lot more detail with the stars. And I think that's really where it really shines the best. It's really more in capturing the stars. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about the moon. The moon, as you can see here, it looks almost like a small, tiny, I would say a small, tiny sun, the way it actually is portrayed in this image. But once I take the moon out of the image, it actually looks pretty good. And let's go ahead and put that in front of you guys. The image is actually able to pull out, and even the little planet that's closer to the moon, you can actually see that it actually has somewhat of a similar half silhouette, almost like we have a half planet. And that's mostly because of the presence in the light source from the sun. What I wanted to share with you guys is that even though this is how it showed us the moon looking, now when I compare this to the Mate 30 Pro image, although this is not by far the most detailed image, the Mate 30 Pro does have a moon mode. The moon was actually half full this morning. So even though it was half full for me, the way the application runs, and because it's pulling so much light, it actually encompassed and made it look like a light source as opposed to the actual moon. So I would say that astrophotography looks great if you're trying to shoot straight for the stars, but not necessarily focusing on the moon. And actually this image is not bad at all. Just keep in mind that when you look at it a little bit more, you notice that the moon is not necessarily represented in the right shade. It's overall still a very good experience. You do need to have a tripod. This is definitely not a handheld experience, and it does take basically about 4 minutes long exposure and keep refining and more light, and it does actually produce some nice images. So I was able to take a few shots, you can see right there, and every single time you can see the moon is always represented as a full moon. But I always love the fact that I was able to basically zoom in here and see that there's another planet there, and I didn't know which one it is, didn't get a chance to look at it, but it's still very, very nice, and you could actually keep looking at all those images. And of course, night sight just works absolutely fantastic. So the one thing I really want to mention to you guys is that the ability of using the voice recorder that we have here is just absolutely fantastic. So I did a quick voice clip for my other video in the Arabic language, and as you saw right there, you can listen to it. Let's go ahead and raise the volume, and it actually works pretty well. So let's go ahead. It actually says how it works, as well as the fact that it works. And it works really, really good. And what I really like about it is that it actually transcribes as you're saying the words, so that you can actually record it and see the words that you're transcribing. And then when you're done with it, you can actually have it save it or share it directly as a text, or you can save it directly to Google Drive and share it with somebody else from there. It works, and it was just absolutely fantastic. I recorded, I think the most I was able to do was about 1 hour and 20 minutes, and it transcribed the entire conversation. The moment I hit save, it was already done. I had all the text, and I just had to go through it and see what happened. Overall, very, very nice. And then of course, live transcription here works really, really nice. You can just go back into YouTube and then turn on any video. I'm gonna lower the volume, and then we're gonna skip to a section where there's actual audio. You can see right there, it's transcribing it and it's doing it live. It's great for if you ever want to watch a video and you cannot listen to it. You're in an environment where it obviously needs to be quiet, library, and you can just read the transcription. It's actually pretty good. And then hitting the volume button one more time disables it, as that's the shortcut once you turn it on in the accessibility menu. So the overall experience of using the Pixel 4 XL for the last 3 days have definitely showed me that Google is learning and providing us new features. And these are things that basically they learned from last year. Now, the availability of the secondary sensor here, it does actually have a purpose, and it works really nice. The 8x zoom that I showed you guys with those pictures, it actually looks pretty good. I was able to read the name on the top of that building from a really wide shot that I was able to take initially. So there is a function, and it works really good. I would have loved to have a wide angle lens, but we don't have that, and we have a good telephoto lens that it's in here. If you do want a wide angle lens, I'm hoping we'll see some moment options and maybe some moment lenses that we are able to attach to the back that will provide us some of those additional features. But right now, wireless charging, wired charging, battery life, overall lasts pretty good, a good solid day. I haven't had an opportunity to be able to kill the battery in any of the days that I've been using it. I did not turn on 90 Hertz all the time. I left it in the auto mode that it's on. I left the motion sense, I left the gestures on, I left obviously the listen to conversation. I can initiate the assistant by calling it, as well as the ability to basically just keep using it as I unlock the device. Overall, it took me a couple of days to get used to not having a fingerprint sensor. So as far as an initial impression, after 72 hours of using it for basically an entire weekend and taking a short trip with it, I think this is definitely a win. I think Google has done a lot of cool things to the Pixel 4 device, as well as the Pixel 4 XL. So if you are considering getting a Pixel device, I would recommend you getting the Pixel 4 XL, mostly for the bigger display and the better technology that we have there. We have a QHD display over a 1080p. And of course, the battery, you'll get a much bigger battery. It's actually a substantial difference in size, as well as the fact that it actually will support you having an entire day running on this, especially with the 90 Hertz. Now, I don't have a Pixel 4 to compare it to, but hopefully we'll start seeing some more videos of people showing their experiences using the smaller of the two with the smaller battery. Let me know in the comments below, what would you like me to focus on specifically for this device as far as features, and of course, like and subscribe as usual, and thank you very much for the support. I'll see you guys in the next video.